Hello and welcome. Today I'll be making a brownie in the shape of Wilson. To start, we'll need half a cup of butter, half a cup of sugar, 2 eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla, half a cup of flour, a third cup of cocoa powder, and a quarter teaspoon each salt and baking powder. To start, grab an 8-inch or 20 centimeter square baking dish. And here's my first mistake. Don't butter and flour the pan. Just use parchment paper. If you don't have it though, it's an okay solution. Here's a trick I learned from my grandmother. First, get rid of the stick of butter. We need it, so put it in a saucepan. Then, you can use the wrapper from the butter to grease the baking dish. Finally, throw in a pinch of flour and spread it around with your fingers. Turn the heat on medium to high under the saucepan with the butter in it. While that's melting, let's get the oven preheating to 350 degrees F or 180 C. Here's my second mistake. Don't try to break up the butter with a whisk. All I accomplished is splashing hot butter on myself, which isn't a lot of fun. Apparently I don't learn because I kept trying to do exactly that. If you want the butter to melt faster, just cut it up with a knife. Now add the sugar and the vanilla to the butter. Do this before you add the eggs, or they might get cooked, and scrambled eggs do not taste good in brownies. Apparently I can't crack eggs because what you just heard was me hitting the egg way too hard on the countertop and it spilling all over the place. While I clean that up, let me just mention that these brownies are just barely sweet, so if you want them sweeter, I'd double the sugar. These eggs are tough today. Anyway, whisk that together until it's homogeneous. Now, add in the cocoa powder and don't level it with your finger, it'll make a mess. The flour, the baking powder, and the salt. Whisk that together to combine it. Pour it into the prepared baking dish, and a rubber spatula is very helpful right now, and bake it for 25 to 30 minutes or until a knife inserted into the center comes out clean. While that's baking, I'm going to do two things. The first is to make a glaze. Combine a bunch of powdered sugar and a little bit of milk until it's the consistency you want. If it's too thick, add milk. If it's too thin, add sugar. I also added a bit of food dye to get the Wilson color. The second thing I did was cut out a Wilson template. I found a picture of him online and scaled it up, printed it out, and cut it out. Now that the brownies are done, I can start carving them. I just cut around the Wilson template I cut out, and then frosted over it. I had a few accidents where Wilson got broken, but I just glued them back together using some of the icing. The paper towel I put down is just to make cleanup easier, as with this plate for when I start frosting him. And finally, I present to you Chocolate Wilson. Okay, oops, let's try that again. I present to you Chocolate Wilson. Honestly, I was really torn whether or not to eat this, but luckily my sister made that decision for me. The brownies turned out pretty good, and the scraps were really good for dipping in the leftover icing.